watching our coverage this week of the U.S. Open, which you should be, you're probably going to say, why can't these guys keep the ball in the fairway? Graham, they look wide, they play a lot thinner.
Yeah, they do. There's a lot of slope to them. You know, we saw a couple, I think at the third or fourth hole, these collection areas where everyone's going to be hitting from the same spot, hoping to avoid those divots most likely. And then it's already got some heat to it. It's firm and fast, and you can tell walking on the greens that this could get really, really nasty. And it just depends on how much water the USGA wants to put on this golf course. They can dictate exactly how this plays.
A U.S. Open getting hard and fast and nasty? I mean, what could change? I mean, I think this is probably the way they love it, right? They always want to try and identify the best golfer of the weekend. I always think, when I think of the U.S. Open, I think of just a survival test in so many ways. I don't know what you guys think, but it really is. I mean, it's been good setups lately, ever since they've sort of had some changes in leadership. I think it's been better, it's been fairer. So at least in that respect, it's not like you're hacking it out of knee-deep rough anymore. It's
yeah, and the rough, when you bring that up, it's Bermuda, which is actually kind of strange. I wasn't expecting Bermuda rough when we got here, and it's not that long, but it's just so unpredictable. The ball goes down to the bottom, and you can always get a club on it. Sometimes you can hit 3 woods out of this rough. Like, it's not that thick, but it's kind of wispy, and it's really, really difficult to judge distance. I mean, you can have an 8-iron that can go 220 yards, and you have one that comes out at 130 yards. Like, you just never really know. It's a guessing game in this Bermuda rough, and then around the greens, there's a lot of this kind of fall off. It's tight lies, which gives guys options, but there's also some really, really deep stuff, especially around the bunkers. That, I mean, if you get in it, I mean, it's one of those times where you can see guys take full swings and the ball just goes doop, and just drops straight down.
I think that's one of the most intriguing storylines of the week is who's going to guess this rough. To have a U.S. Open on Bermuda where you got to get lucky, you can fall to the bottom, you can catch a flyer. It's a bit of a guessing game, but to your point, those tight lies around the greens leads me to our next little topic here, which is what is potentially, outside of a Canadian win, which would obviously be the biggest story for all of us back home, what would be the biggest news headline coming out of this tournament? We got Rory McIlroy trying to end a drought. We've got live players back after the news that broke last week, one of them being Phil Mickelson playing for a career Grand Slam. And Graham, I'll go to you with this because I'm looking at somewhat generally wider fairways for a U.S. Open, tight lies around the green where short game imagination is going to come into play. Kind of start thinking Phil Mickelson a little bit.
Yeah, I think Phil. I think a Jordan Spieth can play good around here. Just like you have to have so much creativity around the greens. That's what Phil and Jordan do probably as well, or better than anyone. Maybe in history you could probably make the argument, but at least right now in this game. And you look around here, and I think that Phil, well, I almost hate to say it because of everything that's happened, but I could see him playing well here. And I mean, what a story that would be. And now he's has the potential to actually win a career Grand Slam.
I thought that door had closed by now.
100%.
It's, for me, I think it's going to be a little bit like last week where you got a short-term news cycle and you got the long-term news cycle. And I think in the first couple days, you're going to hear a lot about the PIF and the PGA Tour and LIV just because of who's here and who wasn't there last week. John Rahm and Brooks Koepka, you're hearing from both sides of it. So I think that news cycle is going to spin pretty heavily for Tuesday, Wednesday, let's say. But I do think that you're going to get back onto the talking about golf and the golf tournament once we get into the playing on Thursday and stuff. And the one thing that I love about this golf course, I just wanted to mention this, is how close everything is. I know it's probably going to slow up play, but behind where we are right now, there's like 2 greens and a tee all in a space of about 20 square yards.
Even right? Just on the front end that we walk, there's a couple tees that share teeing grounds that are kind of crisscrossing over each other. And I'll say this about this golf course, so walking around, it is one that you want to play. I mean, I was just like standing on every tee. I just wanted to hit tee shots on every.
It's a stunning property. It's got a ton of flow, wonderful shape and curvature, lots of camber in the fairway. And speaking of those corridors you guys were just talking about with tightness, you got that, you were alluding to the 5th tee, 7th green, 8th tee corridor in the middle of the front 9. In that stretch of holes, you've got par 4s to punch back, you've got drivable par 4s, and you've got par 3s that are close to 300 yards. The layout is so interesting here. I mean, you really got to pick your spots, and unlike previous U.S. Opens, and maybe similar to what we saw in Rochester, where good solid pars were good scores, this golf course feels a lot, guys, like a golf course where, hey, we're going to see some holes that are going to create lots of opportunities at actions. You got to take care of those holes, and then there are holes where you, hey, par, let's get out of here. But I love this blend of short par 4, long par 3. I mean, it's going to be reachable par 5s. It's kind of nothing like we've ever really seen in a U.S. Open before.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to see, like, kind of going to your point, and there's there's holes where you can use backstops and use kind of slopes to get the ball in there close. But if you're on the wrong side of those slopes and now you're chipping back down towards a green that's designed to come from this way, I mean, angles and precision iron shots are just so key. But if you hit good shots, I think you can get rewarded out here, and I think that's what the USGA is looking for. But if you hit bad shots, it's going to make you look silly.
Don't you think it's also going to make people think a lot more? Like, there's just not one option wherever you're playing, whether you're hitting off a tee or from around the green. Like, they're so tight in some of these areas. You could putt, you could chip, you could use a hybrid. I mean, I love that idea where you put some thinking and some thought into every shot that you've got to select.
Yeah, variety, challenge, options, not a lot of words we typically use at U.S. Open venues, but this is a special one here just outside of Hollywood. It all gets started Thursday morning. We've got you covered here, tsn.ca. Of course, we'll be on SportsCenter as well, and TSN, your home for all major championship golf.